There was an update this morning of OpenResty itself.
Yeah, I tried. I got really creative on this. I dug into it, and part of the thing is Chris is using a version of OpenResty that's pretty different from the ones that I've been able to find. So when I went, what I tried to do was I tried to take the latest version of OpenResty at the time and say, okay, I know the problems in these scripts. Let's compare. Wow, they're so different. It's like I need to do a total drop-in replacement. And then I tried doing that. That did not work well either because then there were conflicts. It's me not knowing the underside of how this whole thing was put together. So this sounds negative, but Coronium is awesome for the fact that you can go in there and like pull apart the guts and try to debug it on your own if you need to. But in this case, it's just me having a lack of understanding of these moving parts, and so it's just I'm going to have to keep working on it. But I mean, right now we've got it uncached and it still works just fine.
Okay, so it's really just performance. You're trying to just optimize.
We would like to optimize performance. What we'll have to do at this point is once it gets popular, so we'll just have to increase the size of our server because we're using like a minimal sized slice to handle the excess traffic that goes with the disk accesses. Now, the thing that's cool about this is and I know I'm just going on here, but this is useful information for folks. So let's say you get stuck in a situation where you're using Coronium and you've got to have an uncached setup. Say you run into the same problem I'm running into. You're probably going to be fine still. So what happens when you start to get a lot of accesses? Now, we don't know 100% why this is, but our guess is what happens is the server will do an access, it will load the file, and that file will get cached either in the buffer of the SSD or the drive or somewhere in memory. And so you don't get tagged with the same load hit you do for the first one. So you get a big load hit for the first one. Big, I'm just throwing out, whatever the size is, it's still very fast. But the next time that script gets loaded, if it gets loaded within the next like 5 seconds or so, boom, it's very quick. So even uncached, it's very quick. So it's kind of nice. So for us, actually, more traffic is better than less traffic.
Yeah, and I've heard other stories and different tools, right? Other web technologies that are kind of like, well, we couldn't, we didn't want to spend the time to optimize up front, so we just, like you say, we just kind of quote unquote, threw some money at it, and just went up with a larger container, and then later when they kind of reach that point where they're like, we know that we're making money on the thing, then they go back and they spend the time to optimize, because they're.
That's the cut we made. We said this thing is functional, it's not going to crash, it's working. Do we spend more time trying to fix this, or do we release it now and then look for a solution in the interim, or push that off? And we did that. We pushed it off.
Yeah, and I know how you feel though, because I think we're similar in the idea that we like to, be as efficient as possible right up front, and best practices and optimize, as we go, and all that kind of stuff like that. But then there's just this other mentality that's kind of like, just get it out there, iterate on it, make sure that it's going to actually be a profitable venture, and then come back and retool and optimize. So
you can go down that. It's the same problem with adding more and more features and never getting done.
Right.
Exactly. You have to call it good and move on.
Yeah. My next step is just going to be a button on the screen, and then I'm going to iterate from there.
Yeah. That purchase button on the screen is a start, and that's good enough.
and some kind of analytics just to see if people tap it. If people tap it, then that tells me that I'm onto something.
Very good, Charles. Very good. Oh man, I'm trying to do something that I'm obviously not allowed to do with the debugger here, and this is frustrating me because I want to demo something for folks today and show them.
Do you have the latest version of Corona, or are you talking about your debugger? You're talking the one.
It's just the debugger I'm using.
Oh, okay. I was wondering.
You're making a mistake. Well, I'm trying to do something kind of weird.
Oh, you're still using Zero Brain, right?
I've got part of it working. I'm trying to do this thing where I'm showing visually what's going on with the calculations, but in order to do that, I have to break each step up and pause it, and then have the debugger stop on a breakpoint so that it renders the next frame so you can see the thing that's going on. I'll show you; it'll make more sense.
Well, okay, so let's just so everybody understands where we're going. Let's make sure we frame it for them. So I said in the show notes that we were going to talk about firing weapons, killing enemies, and rendering terrain, which it's probably going to be a lot more than what we can handle in one show. But what is it you want to cover today?
Definitely firing weapons. I would like to actually go back, and last week we talked a little bit about the enemy movement AI, and then I suggested out of the blue some improvements, and I made those improvements, and I just want to show people how easy it is to incrementally improve things and get a very nice result. I mean, it was really just a few more lines of code. I'll show you the two different AI functions compared to each other, and I think you'll be impressed by how easy it is to just elaborate a little bit and get a very significant improvement in behavior.
Okay, cool.
And then we'll go on to firing because that's the next thing, and then my mind is sort of like totally blank after that because I got caught up in trying to show debug output for this thing. Huh. I wonder if I shouldn't just remove the... I'm talking to myself now like a fool. Where is it?
These are the internal thoughts. These are
here's this. Here's the problem right here. Foolish man. 2 seconds. Say
That's
something
good.
Interesting.
Problem. So, Stephen, you say lots of plugins.
Yes.
You like decentralizing the issue? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, we run across a problem and say, well, we would have to do this and this and this, but we'll have to distract ourselves doing that, sink lots of time into it. But someone else has already written it. We probably tested it, and
and that's definitely one of the things that Corona is, has tried to address over the years, right? Everything was kind of coupled together, and then it went and it decoupled a bunch of stuff, turned it into plugins, simultaneously created a plugin system, and now we're seeing developers creating plugins, which is great because there are things that come along that are like not core, right? They're not the foundational pieces. They're great pieces, but they're not something that the engineers really should spend time on if someone else can kind of create it themselves and share it with the community. Love plugins. Plugins is great.
Yeah, and this was in response to throw money at the problem.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to be able to get this working the way I want it to in time for the discussion. Okay. It'll make sense mostly, so we'll plow through it, and I will show you my screen, and we'll go from there.
Okay.